Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of Pigpen mispronounces names and words, both common and uncommon. Today's Iceberg will be about the Gundam franchise, although only the Universal Century part of the universe. This is because I haven't actually seen every Gundam show yet, and I don't want to spoil these shows for myself in order to make this video. And since I've seen every single Universal Century show, I'm just gonna stick to that universe. Although, I've also seen Seed, Seed Destiny, and Fighter G Gundam, so I guess I could have included them, but that'd be a weird title, so I'm just gonna do the Universal Century. Anyways, if you end up liking the video, leave a like and comment below about your favorite entry. Maybe even subscribe and hit the notification bell. Or don't. I don't know, I don't control you. I've also got other icebergs if you're interested, like ones based on Evangelion, Fate, Marvel, DC, Cyberpunk, Halo, Mass Effect, Call of Duty, etc. So if you're interested in those, maybe check them out. Or don't. Like I said, I don't control you. And maybe I'll make another Gundam iceberg one day in the future if this video is successful. Which I doubt it will be, but anyways, let's begin. F-91. Released in March of 1991, F-91 is a film set 30 years after the events of Char's counterattack, and was the first Gundam project to have an entirely new cast of characters. It's a pretty solid film, but it's very fast-paced. This is because the movie wasn't actually supposed to exist. You see, the original plan for F-91 was that it was going to be an entire series that would celebrate the 10th anniversary of the franchise. However, due to behind-the-scenes issues, the show was cancelled. However, there was some stuff made for the show. 13 episode scripts. And so it was decided to take what was made for the show and somehow turn that into a film. And because of this, a ton of the original script had to be cut. So that's why the film is so fast-paced. It's 13 episodes cut up into an hour and a half. Because of this, the film wasn't received very well. There was also the issue of the film's mobile suits. You see, the film's mobile suits are actually smaller than the normal UC mobile suits. This was because their smaller size would make it easier for them to be turned into model kits. And by easier, I do mean easier, but I also mean cheaper. And fans weren't really happy with this. Anyways, the film ends with a tease for a sequel. However, a sequel film or show never happened. In fact, a direct sequel that took place right after the film still hasn't happened. The closest we've ever gotten to a sequel is the manga Mobile Suit Crossbone Gundam, which takes place 10 years after the film. Thunderbolt Season 3. Running for 8 episodes over the course of 2 seasons, Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt is an ONA series that serves as an adaptation of the manga of the same name that began being serialized in March of 2012. The show lasted from December 2015 to July of 2017, and didn't even come close to adapting the entirety of the manga, as the series is still ongoing. This has led some fans to believe that a third season of Thunderbolt was cancelled, as it didn't make sense to just end it. There was still more to adapt. Well, it turns out this isn't true. There was never a third season of Thunderbolt planned. According to a longtime Gundam producer, Naohiro Ogata, the plan was to just do 8 episodes. The series wasn't cancelled, it just ended. He's also revealed that there is a desire in Studio Sunrise to make a third season, but for whatever reason, they haven't greenlit it. So will we ever get a third season of Thunderbolt? Maybe. It's possible. Char clones. This is a term that refers to characters in Gundam projects who are very clearly inspired by Char. Some traits of Char clones include him being a rival to the main character, a red or gold mobile suit or other vehicle they ride around in, they usually wear masks, helmets, or sunglasses, and oftentimes they have a pretty big ego. These characters can appear in Universal Century projects or even other continuities, and sometimes they are quite literally Char clones, like a French Char who is quite literally a clone of Char from the novel Gaia Gear. While there's been plenty of Char clones in Gundam, there's even been Char clones in other pieces of media. Some have argued characters like Reiner from Attack on Titan, Slain from All Noah Zero, and Larry Folk from Ace Combat can all be classified as Char clones. Live-action movie. In July of 2018, it was announced that Studio Sunrise and Legendary Pictures were working together to create a live-action Gundam film, with Brian K. Vaughan hired to write the film. And for nearly 3 years, there wasn't really any updates. That was until April of 2021, when it was revealed that Jordan Vogt Roberts was hired to direct the film, and that the film would be released via Netflix. Not made by Netflix, just distributed by it. And in November of 2021, we got our first look at the film, revealing that the film will be heavily inspired by the Universal Century, with rumors even suggesting that the film will be set in the year UC-0105. But those are just rumors, and these rumors might not be true. As Vogt Roberts has said, the film might end up being an amalgamation of several different Gundam continuities. And that's pretty much all we know about the film. The last thing I'll mention is that there are rumors that Timothée Chalamet may be in talks to star in the film, but like I said, they're just rumors. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed. Airing from October 2002 to September 2003, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed is the first installment in the Cosmic Era, and it's fairly controversial. Some fans love the show, while others absolutely hate it. Although, in Japan, it is insanely popular. But that's not why I'm talking about it. One of the problems that some people have with the series is that it serves as a sorta remake of the original series, as the show begins fairly similar to the original Gundam series from 1979. However, it's not a remake, and it quickly does its own thing. But the similarities between the shows were done on purpose. One of the ideas behind Seed was that it was supposed to be an updated version of the Universal Century. The idea being, what if the Universal Century were made in the 21st century? So while Seed isn't a remake, it is a reimagining of sorts. Char and Amuro in Double Zeta. So Double Zeta is known as the black sheep of the original UC Gundam shows, as not only does it have a more comedic tone to it, at least in the first half, the show does get pretty dark, it's also the only original UC Gundam show not to have Char and Amuro show up. However, that wasn't supposed to be the case. Originally, Double Zeta was going to feature both of them, and the show would have concluded their long-lasting rivalry. However, during Double Zeta's production, the film Char's Counterattack was greenlit, and because of this, both characters were removed from the show. We don't really know anything about what Amuro's role in the show would have been, but we do know that Char was supposed to be introduced as a member of Hamon's forces, and he would eventually betray her and become the show's final antagonist. Char betraying somebody? Who could have guessed? Because Char was removed from the show, he was replaced with Glemmy Todo. Side note, Char does make an appearance in the Double Zeta manga adaptation. G-Savior. Usually, when an anime franchise gets a live-action adaptation, it's usually either made in Japan or it's made in the United States. However, Gundam is different, in that its first live-action movie was instead made in Canada. Airing on TV in December 2000 and getting a limited theatrical run in June of 1999, G-Savior is a live-action film set in the Universal Century, created in order to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the franchise. Being a collaboration between Polestar Entertainment and Studio Sunrise, the film features a mostly Canadian cast, and nobody mentions the word Gundam. It's not even in the film's title. The film is set in the year UC0223, and tells the story of the battle between the Congress of Settlement Nations, aka Consent, and the Illuminati. No, really, this film is about Consent battling the Illuminati. Anyways, this film is not popular. In fact, it's arguably one of the most infamous pieces of Gundam media out there, with fans and critics alike criticizing the film for its poor CGI, acting, and writing. Because of this negative reception, Studio Sunrise has made it their mission to ignore its existence. However, because Studio Sunrise is so dedicated to ignoring the film, that also means that Sunrise hasn't decanonized it, meaning that G-Savior is still canon to the Universal Century all these years later. This is pretty funny, because the film has been out of print since 2002, and it's been directly said that Sunrise has no plans to ever re-release it. Sayla Mass vanishes. Sayla Mass is a pretty prominent character in the original Gundam anime. However, despite her prominence, she only made a small appearance in Double Zeta and was straight up just a cameo in Zeta Gundam. She didn't even appear in Char's counterattack. Why was this? Well, she was planned to appear more often. However, her voice actress, Yo Inoi, was actually unavailable at the time Zeta Gundam and Char's counterattack were being worked on. And so, not wanting to recast her, they simply just didn't include her in the film, and left her cameo in Zeta Gundam silent. Though Sayla would eventually be recasted in the origin. However, this is due to Yo Inoi tragically passing away in February of 2003 due to lung cancer. Victory's weird release order. So Victory Gundam's main Gundam doesn't actually appear in the show until episode 4. Or at least, that was the plan. This caused a problem, as around the time of Victory's release, Bandai had some new management, and they wanted the Gundam to appear in episode 1. However, this wasn't possible because the episodes were already too far into production. So Bandai instead forced episode 4 to be aired first. So because of this, episodes 2 through 4 of Victory are a how we got here kind of situation, almost like an extended flashback. It's needlessly confusing, and this really ticked off Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino. But this was just one of the many things bothering him around this time. More on that in a bit. Is Thunderbolt canon? So as I mentioned before, Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt is an ONA series that ran for 8 episodes from December 2015 to July of 2017. The first season of the show takes place during the One-Year War in UC 0079, and the second season takes place 8 months after the war's end. However, while it takes place in Universal Century settings, it's not actually canon to the Universal Century. At least, the manga isn't. The manga is actually set in an alternate version of the Universal Century, so many people just assumed that the anime adaptation would also be set in an alternate Universal Century. However, when Studio Sunrise released an official timeline of the Universal Century, this timeline had Thunderbolt in it. Not only that, but Thunderbolt's author has even said on Twitter that while the manga isn't canon to the Universal Century, the anime is. So Thunderbolt is canon, despite all the tech inconsistencies. Or maybe it's not canon, as this timeline isn't exactly perfect, as the Igloo trilogy isn't in this timeline, and that's very blatantly canon. So it seems this timeline is simply faulty. Or maybe, just maybe, Gundam canon isn't that serious, and pretty much everyone who works on the Universal Century just considers everything made canon unless it's directly said otherwise. References and other anime. Because Gundam is such a massive franchise, and the Universal Century portion of the franchise is so large, of course there's been plenty of anime that have paid tribute to it, with a reference, an Easter egg, or even a full-on parody. Some examples include Daily Lives of High School Boys, Eureka 7, Food Wars, Full Metal Panic, Kill la Kill, Yuzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out, and The World God Only Knows. Igloo Trilogy. Releasing from July of 2004 to April of 2009, Mobile Suit Gundam MS Igloo is a trilogy of OVA series that take place around the time of the One-Year War. The series is controversial, not because of its writing, but because of its animation, as all 3 installments are animated using CGI. And since we're talking about mid to late 2000s straight to DVD CGI, yeah, it doesn't look all that great. Although, I'd argue for the time, this was pretty impressive. While I say this was an OVA series, that's not entirely true, as the first part of the series was actually originally only viewable at the Bandai Museum in Matsudo, Japan, as part of the Gundam 25th Anniversary project, though it would later be released on DVD. The first part of the series, titled The Hidden One-Year War, follows the crew of the Jotunheim, a Zeon cargo ship that is being used to test prototype weapons and mobile suits. Basically, it's a look at how the weapons of the Universal Century were created and tested. The second part is titled Apocalypse 0079. This is a direct sequel to the first chapter, and focuses on the crew testing even more prototype weaponry as the One-Year War quickly comes to an end. And finally, MS Igloo 2, The Gravity Front, is the third and final installment of the trilogy, although it serves as its own thing, being an anthology telling the stories of 3 different Earth Federation soldiers during the One-Year War coming face to face with death. Quite literally in this case. The series remains controversial, as while most agree the stories are pretty solid, a lot of people can't get past the wonky at times animation. Kukuru's Doan's Island. Released in June of 2022, Mobile Suit Gundam Kukuru's Doan's Island is a film set during the events of the original series, and is a remake of the show's 15th episode. Now, this movie is very interesting because of the reason of its existence. You see, the creator of Gundam, Yoshiyuki Tomino, hates the episode the movie is based on. In fact, he even requested that when Gundam was brought over to other countries, this episode be excluded from DVD releases and TV broadcasts. And so far, this has been the case, except for the 1980s Italian dub, which is sad for me because I actually really like this episode. So why does he hate this episode so much? Well, it's been speculated that this is because the episode's animation is fairly off-model at times, which was due to this episode's animation being outsourced. However, this isn't the case. He's revealed that the reason he doesn't like this episode is because of an issue between him and somebody else who worked on the episode. Who was this person? Well, he refuses to reveal who they are, only saying that he'll reveal who it is when that person dies. As to what the issue was, it's a mystery, with Tomino saying the staff member knows what they did. So anyways, because of this, the episode was eventually remade and expanded into a pretty solid film. Weird mobile suits. Now, the Universal Century is far from the Gundam franchise with the weirdest mobile suit designs, but it still has its fair share of weird designs. So here's a list of some weird mobile suits and mobile armors. For starters, we have the EMS TC-M01 Carmelo, which made its debut in the novel Mobile Suit Crossbone Gundam Ghost. It's basically Stiltman if he was a mech. It's an amphibious mobile suit meant for battles along coastlines where they can peer out from the ocean and attack. Next is the EMS TC-06 Banzo, which also made its debut in Crossbone Gundam Ghost. It's this weird, fat, blob-like mech that was built to counter beam shields. It's armed with a bunch of missile launchers. However, the missiles are pretty small, but they do leave quite the mark, which requires the suit to have extremely heavy armor, because oftentimes its own missiles will hit it. Next, we have our last mobile suit from Crossbone Gundam Ghost. This is the EMS TC-01, Lalo, which is a mobile suit designed after a jester or a clown. It's basically a standard mobile suit that rides around on a ball. This ball gives it some pretty good speed, and the ball can deploy some beam blades, so it can be used for offensive purposes. Next up is the RMS-116H Hobby Hizek. First appearing in the film Char's Counterattack, they're basically RMS-106 Hizek mobile suits that have been modified by the Earth Federation to sell to civilians. They've got extremely limited armor and don't normally come with weapons. Next, we have the Rhinoceros. This was seen in the video game Rise from the Ashes. It's a Zeon-made mobile suit built from a Zaku 2 mobile suit. It's got a bunch of turrets and cannons built into it, along with a thermonuclear fusion reactor. Next, there's the YMS-16M Examel. First appearing in Stardust Memory, this mobile suit was created by Zeon and is a mobile artillery gun. It's surprisingly pretty mobile, despite it being enormous. Next, there's the NZ-999 Neo Zeon, which made its first appearance in Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. This thing is a kaiju-sized armor, 380 feet tall. Now, this thing wasn't created in mass. Only one was ever created for the leader of the Neo Zeon Remnant, Full Frontal. Although a successor to it was built, called the NZ-999-2 Neo Zeon, which made its first appearance in Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative. It was built from spare parts created during the creation of the first Neo Zeon armor. Next, there's the MSN-01 High Mobility Psi-Commune System Zaku, which made its first appearance in the Universal Century in Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt. Instead of having legs like most mobile suits, this thing had 2 sets of thermonuclear rocket engines. This made it extremely fast. However, the suit itself couldn't actually keep up with the engines, so it could only be used in very short periods of time. Next, there's the RTX-440 Ground Assault Type Gun Tank, which first appeared in the Igloo trilogy. Basically, it's an earlier version of the RX-75 gun tank, which is one of my favorite mobile suit designs. The RTX-440 looks like a steampunk World War I landship tank that got turned into a mobile suit. It's extremely heavily armed, and even features a flamethrower. Next, there's the QRX-006 Geminus, which first appeared in Gundam Evolve. It's a pyramid-shaped prototype mobile suit made by the Titans, and was piloted by a team of 6 Cyber New-type monks. It had 3 forms: its standard pyramid form, its transformed form, and its mounted form. And finally, we have the YMT-05 Hildoffer, which technically isn't even a mobile suit, but I'm gonna sneak it onto the list. It was first introduced in the Igloo trilogy, and is a giant nuclear-powered tank that can transform from a tank into a kind of mobile suit form. It's extremely heavily armed, and it took extremely skilled pilots to control it. Although not many of these things were actually made, and were rarely seen after the 1-year war. Super Robot Wars. So the Gundam franchise is no stranger to the Super Robot Wars franchise. This is a franchise of games that began in 1991 and has an enormous amount of sequels and spin-offs. It's a massive crossover franchise that crosses over various mecha anime, manga, and video games. If you're wondering why you've never heard of these games, it's probably because only a handful of them have been released outside of Japan, since releasing them outside of Japan is a licensing nightmare. Anyways, as of right now, every single major Gundam universe has its rep in the franchise, from the Universal Century to the Cosmic Era, all the way to the post-disaster era. Well, every major continuity except for the Ad Stella universe. But that's only because Witch from Mercury just ended. Give it some time. I'm sure it'll show up in a future game. Anyways, one of the most interesting things about these games is that characters from each of these continuities can interact with each other and have some pretty fun interactions. Not only that, but they can even interact with characters from other franchises. It's a pretty interesting looking series. I talk a little bit more about this franchise in the Evangelion Iceberg, so if you're interested, go check that out. Gundam's episode count got cut. The original Gundam series is the only original UC show not to have 50 plus episodes. However, that wasn't the original plan. As originally, the show was supposed to have 52 episodes. However, the show's episode count was cut down to 43 episodes. This was because Gundam wasn't popular when it was releasing. Its ratings were so low that they were forced to cut 9 entire episodes. Luckily, the Gundam franchise would survive because of a combination of 3 things: the success of the Gundam compilation films, released from March 1981 to March of 1982, the model kits, and the show's run on syndication. Mobile Suit SD Gundam. Releasing from 1988 to 1993, Mobile Suit SD Gundam was a series of OVAs that served as a parody of the Gundam franchise, featuring super deformed versions of characters and mobile suits from the Universal Century. It was also created to promote the gacha toys being created around this time. And as more Gundam continuities were created, the more the series began to expand. As of right now, SD Gundam is basically a sub-franchise, with the amount of content made for it. For example, the franchise includes the original 13 OVAs, a theatrical film, an 8-episode anime series that was a compilation of the OVAs, a 52-episode anime releasing from September of 2003 to March of 2004, another 52-episode anime that ran from April 2010 to March of 2011, a 10-episode ONA series that ran from July 2019 to March 2021, a 24-episode ONA series releasing from April to September of 2021, a ton of different manga adaptations, and at least 9 different game series. Not 9 different games, 9 game series. SD Gundam even has rep on the Virtual Boy, and this Virtual Boy game is actually one of the rarest games of all time. Basically, SD Gundam started out as a simple parody of the Universal Century, and quickly grew into a sub-franchise arguably as popular as the main franchise. Unicorn vs. Unicorn RE0096. So Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn was released via 7 theatrical OVAs from March of 2010 to May of 2014, and some of these episodes were really long. And so it was decided to re-release the OVAs as a full 22-episode series titled Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn RE0096. Now this series is simply the original OVAs cut up into 22-minute long chunks with some extra scenes thrown in to make sure the episodes were 22 minutes long, and to entice fans who have already seen the OVA series to watch the show. Now because of this, a debate has formed in the Gundam community over which one is better at telling the story. Personally, I don't really think it matters which one you watch. It's not like the compilation films for the original series or Zeta Gundam, where the movies cut out a lot of stuff. I watched the OVAs, but if you want to watch the series instead, that's fine. I don't really think that changes much. A very similar thing has happened with The Origin, which released as 6 theatrical OVAs from February of 2015 to May of 2018, and it received a 13-episode TV re-edit called Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin: Advent of the Red Comet. And just like Unicorn, there's also a debate which version is better. Frankly, it doesn't really matter in my opinion. Watch whichever one you want, or both for that matter. The Origin's Weird Continuity. So Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin is a 6-episode OVA series adapting the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th volumes of the manga series of the same name. Now, The Origin is pretty interesting in that the manga series is actually a retelling of the original Gundam series, but with a ton of new stuff added in, and a ton of stuff cut. In fact, the series even explores events set before the original series, which is what the Origin anime adapts. Now, the thing with The Origin is that because it's a retelling of the original series, it takes place in its own separate continuity, similar to Thunderbolt's manga. However, like Thunderbolt's anime, the Origin anime takes place in the anime continuity, at least according to Studio Sunrise. There are a lot of people who claim this series can't be canon, as because it's adapting stuff from a manga that wasn't meant to be canon, there are some continuity errors and retcons. For example, in The Origin, the Earth Federation was building their mobile suits much earlier than the original series. However, like I said earlier, Gundam canon isn't super serious. Basically, when it comes to the Universal Century, if it's animated, it's canon. You just gotta headcanon away the inconsistencies and continuity errors. Real-life Gundam. In 2009, a life-sized replica of the RX-78 Gundam from the original series was built and placed in Shiokaze Park. It's a pretty cool statue, but it pales in comparison to what was built in December of 2020. A life-size RX-78 Gundam that could walk. While it doesn't have a pilot controlling it, this giant Gundam actually walks. Being held at Yokohama Pier, you could even walk up the Gundam dock tower. However, it's not free, costing roughly 4,950 yen to both view the Gundam and go up the dock tower, or $32.95 in US dollars. Funny enough, this Gundam was only supposed to be up until March of 2022. However, because of public interest, the Gundam's life was spared for another year, and it was rescheduled to the end of March of 2023. However, this again got delayed, and now it's set to end at the end of March of 2024. Oh, and I probably should mention the other life-size Gundam statue. In 2017, a 64-foot-tall Unicorn Gundam was built in Diver City Tokyo Plaza. And at night, it goes into destroy mode, which is pretty cool. The original Zeta Gundam. So the original plan for Zeta Gundam was very different from the show we ended up getting. I can't go into everything that was different, because that would literally take hours, but here's some of the more notable changes. Char was originally going to be the show's protagonist, and unlike Camille, he would actually lose in the end, with Camille then rising up, leading a new group of fighters to take on Paptimus Sirocco. This would be a result of Char slowly losing his fighting and leadership abilities throughout the course of the series. Speaking of Sirocco, he wouldn't actually be working with the Jupiter Energy Fleet, and would instead have been a member of the Earth Federation, being described as the Federation's own champion to rival Char. He would have also been referred to as the Comet from Jupiter. Heyman would have been seen working with Char and company throughout the series, and would have been extremely gymnastic. Katz was originally never going to join the Anti-Earth Union group, which probably would have saved his life. Hugh Carbine was originally going to be playing both sides of the conflict in order to force humanity into space. Why was he doing this? Well, according to the original proposal document, he was doing this in order to, quote, reclaim the Holy Land of Israel for the Jewish people. And finally, Requa was originally never going to betray the Anti-Earth Union group, and she was originally going to be in love with Camille. Did Char and Amuro die? Yes. Emma Sheen and... Okay. There are some people out there who genuinely believe that Char and Amuro don't die at the end of Char's counterattack. They argue this because, technically, we don't see them die. We just see them disappearing. But, like, come on. They're gone. Hell, Char's ghost shows up in the Unicorn anime. So, yeah, Char and Amuro are dead. But I guess if you want to headcanon them alive, I can't stop you. Emma Sheen and Gates Kappa in Double Zeta. So Char and Amuro weren't the only characters that got cut from Double Zeta. Originally, Emma Sheen and Gates Kappa were going to return in Double Zeta. Now you're probably confused about Emma Sheen, as she very clearly dies in Zeta Gundam. In fact, her body is vaporized. Well, we know that Emma Sheen was originally going to appear in Double Zeta because of an early draft of Double Zeta simply called Towards a Continuation of Mobile Suit Z Gundam, where it says that she would have appeared in the early episodes. This draft is dated November 8th, 1985. This was several months before Emma Sheen's death in the finale of Zeta Gundam, so it seems that her death wasn't set in stone. Or at the very least, they were discussing ideas of somehow revealing that she didn't die at the end of Zeta. So why did they cut her? Well, according to Endo Akinori, a writer on Zeta Gundam and the author of Double Zeta's light novel adaptation, Emma was written out of Double Zeta because she was voiced by Maya Okamoto. You see, she was set to voice the character Lena in Double Zeta. And it seems that Tomino didn't want to have a voice actress doing two roles in a single show. Although I do need to point out that Endo says that Tomino could have been joking when he told Endo this. So it's possible this wasn't the actual reason she was cut from the show. As for Gates Kappa, originally he was planned to return in Double Zeta as well. But for whatever reason, he just didn't. Yeah, we don't actually have an official reason why he was cut from the show. Although, it is worth mentioning that his voice actor, Kazuki Yao, was set to voice the main protagonist of Double Zeta. So maybe Tomino really just didn't want voice actors to have two roles in a single show. Everyone slaps everyone. So in the Gundam franchise, it's very common to see people slapping each other, especially in the Universal Century. It happens insanely often in some of these shows, especially the original series, Zeta Gundam and Double Zeta. Pretty much every Universal Century show and movie released in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s has at least one slap in it. And literally nobody is safe from being slapped. Men, women, children, robots, good guys, bad guys. If you exist in the Universal Century, you are going to be slapped at least 10 times. That's just how the universe works. Don't question it. Although, some have questioned it. After all, it's weirdly common in the shows. So why is there so much slapping in the Universal Century? Well, the answer isn't funny. One theory is that this stems from how the Imperial Japanese military operated during World War II, with physical corporal punishment being extremely common, And since a lot of people who made the original Gundam shows were either alive during World War II or were the children or grandchildren of those who fought in World War II, it's likely they knew about this and incorporated it into this military series. The original Operation Star 1. Originally, Operation Star 1 was going to play out very differently to how it did in the original series. For example, Degwin Zabi was going to be there, and he would meet Sayla on board White Base, where he'd beg her for forgiveness for killing her father. This would have confirmed that Sayla's father was assassinated years before the Origin confirmed this. Degwin would have also begged Sayla to kill him, but Sayla would refuse, stating that she's not like Char and has no desire for revenge. And finally, the RX-78 would have been destroyed not by Char, but instead by an unnamed Zeon soldier piloting an MS-12 Gigan, which obviously means that the MS-12 Gigan would have also shown up in the original series, alongside various other designs that went unused and were later introduced into the franchise via the MSX model kit line. How many people died in the colony drops? So in the Universal Century, there are 6 attempted colony drops, and 5 of them are successful. So that leaves the question, how many people died in these drops? Well, let's look over this one by one. The first drop that occurs in the original series is known as Operation British. According to the Gundam Century reference book, Operation British resulted in the deaths of 2.5 billion people. 320 million people were killed instantly, and the rest were killed in the following weeks due to tsunamis, earthquakes, and strange weather phenomenon. The next drop, chronologically, was featured in Stardust Memory, and is known as Operation Stardust. We don't know the exact numbers, but we do know the death toll was in the millions, as the colony was dropped in the center of North America, so around North Dakota. So let's use real-world populations. North Dakota's population is 774,000. That's not in the millions, so let's include the states surrounding it. South Dakota has 895,000, Minnesota has 5.7 million people living in it, and Montana has 1.1 million. So adding them all together, we get 8,469,000 people. The next colony drop was featured in Zeta Gundam. It is known as Operation Apollo. Luckily, it doesn't seem like anyone died in this colony drop, as this abandoned colony was dropped onto an uninhabited part of the moon, so nobody living on the moon died. The next colony drop was featured in Double Zeta. This colony drop occurred in Dublin and destroyed most of Ireland, and caused massive earthquakes throughout Europe. Again, we don't have exact numbers here, so I'm gonna use real-life populations. And as of 2021, Ireland has 5 million people living there, so that's 5 million people gone. I know there's the earthquakes in Europe, but I don't really know how to calculate potential deaths there, so I'm just gonna skip them. The next colony drop occurs in Char's counterattack, and this one is only kinda a colony drop. It's not actually a colony. Instead, it's an asteroid called Fifth Luna that was used for space colony construction. Technically, I shouldn't be counting it, but since this asteroid was used in the same way colonies are used during colony drops, I'm gonna count it. Anyways, Fifth Luna was dropped in Tibet, and while we don't have official numbers, it has been estimated that at least 1 billion people died in the attack. And the final colony drop occurred in Char's counterattack, and this one actually failed. So how many people died in the Universal Century's colony drops? Well, this is just speculation, but I estimate that around 3,513,469,000 people were killed. And that's only including the deaths on Earth. Everyone living in these colonies were killed. unless they were evacuated or somehow escaped, or the colony was abandoned. And it's been said that colonies in the Universal Century house at max 36 million people, so that's potentially millions more dead. Twilight Axis. Releasing from June 2017 to September of the same year, Twilight Axis is a 6-episode ONA series that was originally created for members of the Gundam fan club before being released online. It would later receive a compilation special in November of 2017. I say special and not film because it's not a film, it's only 26 minutes long, which, yes, means that the ONA series had extremely short episodes, each one being roughly 3 to 5 minutes in length. Twilight Axis takes place shortly after Gundam Unicorn and tells the story of Arlet Almage, a member of an investigation team sent to investigate a facility on the asteroid Axis, where they're attacked by a militia group called the Burnham. This series is very notable in that it's almost universally disliked. Not because the idea of the story is bad or anything like that. Instead, it's because this series just doesn't have enough time to tell its story. And because of this, Twilight Axis is a fairly confusing watch. Which is a genuine shame, because this series marks the directing debut of Si-Jun Kim, the assistant director of Unicorn and the animation director of Gundam Build Fighters. The last thing I'll mention here is that during development of Twilight Axis, it was announced that a light novel adaptation of the story would also be created. And this light novel adaptation was released first, wrapping up after 20 chapters in December of 2017. A manga adaptation was even created that lasted 3 volumes, released from October 2017 to March of 2019. And because of how short the ONA series is, it seems the best way to experience the series' plot is through the novel or manga. Amuro is going to die halfway through the show. The original plan for the original series had Amuro dying halfway through the show, and shortly after his death, the crew of White Base would enter an uneasy alliance with Char that would end towards the end of the show, where he takes control of Zeon's forces. This was so early in development that it even predated the 52-episode outline. Funny enough, Amuro did actually end up dying halfway through the show's novel adaptations. This was done because Tomino didn't know how popular the series was going to get. In fact, he actually thought the series was pretty much over once the original show ended. He said before that if he knew how popular Gundam would get, he wouldn't have killed him off in the novels. Bernie Wiseman saved Zeon. This is a theory created by YouTuber Flashing Blades. Go check out the video he made about it for a more in-depth explanation. Link in the description. But here's the gist of it. Basically, Bernie from War in the Pocket heavily damages the RX-78 NT-1 Gundam, NT-1, aka Gundam Alex. He does this at the cost of his own life in order to prevent the space colony the Gundam's on from being nuked. Now, the Gundam Alex was actually designed for Amuro, as during the final months of the 1-year war, the RX-78 Gundam he was piloting literally could not keep up with him. However, because the Gundam Alex was heavily damaged, the suit couldn't be given to Amuro, so the RX-78 had to be modified. And with these modifications, Amuro would nearly kill Char multiple times. However, if Amuro had the Gundam Alex, he would most likely be able to kill Char during the 1-year war. And with Char dead, he's not there to start the Second Neo-Zeon War, and by extension, the sleeves wouldn't exist either, meaning that Zeon would have fallen much earlier in the timeline, either after the original series or during Zeta Gundam. So basically, because Bernie damaged the Gundam Alex, he gave Zeon a fighting chance for decades after the original series. Mobile Suit Gundam 00 was pitched as being set in the Universal Century. Airing from October 2007 to March of 2009, Mobile Suit Gundam 00 takes place in the Anno Domini universe. However, throughout the show, you can actually see mobile suits that look fairly similar to the mobile suits of the Universal Century. At first, people thought this was just to pay tribute to the Universal Century. However, that's not the case. According to the show's director, Seiji Mizushima, he originally pitched the show as taking place in the Universal Century. However, for whatever reason, Studio Sunrise vetoed the idea, and so the series was rewritten into taking place in a brand new continuity. Doozy Bots. Doozy Bots is a cancelled 1991 cartoon series created by Studio Sunrise. The show was their attempt at bringing SD Gundam to America, and so instead of just dubbing over the OVAs or subtitling it, it was decided to create an entire new series called Doozy Bots that was extremely different. While the show would have used various mobile suits from the Universal Century, like the RX-78, the gun tank, the gun cannon, etc., the show wouldn't be a parody of the Gundam franchise. Instead, it was going to be about a scientist named Professor Doozy who creates some robots. And these robots go crazy. So he finds 5 students named Max, Polly, Cole, Scosi, and Wipedown, and transplants their minds into new robots to go and annihilate the first generation of robots. A pitch pilot was created for the series. However, it wouldn't be picked up by any network, so the series was cancelled. And yes, Cole, who uses a wheelchair, gets put into the gun tank, the only robot with no legs. Professor Doozy is a very cruel bastard. There's also a robot turkey that lays eggs that hatch into robots. God, I'm happy this series didn't happen. Gundam Evolve. From 2001 to 2007, Studio Sunrise and Bandai created 15 short films to promote various model kits. The series used various types of animation, ranging from 2D to CGI to even cel-shaded. This series was titled Mobile Suit Gundam Evolve, or Gundam Evolve for short. Because this series was used to promote model kits, it wasn't exclusively related to the Universal Century, although most episodes did take place in that continuity. The show was an anthology that focused on small moments involving popular characters and/or mobile suits from the franchise. The episodes tied to the Universal Century include Episode 1, which is a clip show about Amuro and the RX-78 Gundam, Episode 2, which is about Camille and the RX-178 Gundam Mark II, Episode 4, which is about the RX-78 GP-03 Dendrobium, Episode 5, which is about Amuro, Quest, and the RX-92 New Gundam, Episode 9, which focuses on Amuro piloting a Zeta Gundam, Episode 10, which is about Judo and the Double Zeta Gundam, Episode 11, which is about the RB-79 Ball, Episode 12, which is about Char and the RMS-099 Rick Diaz Mobile Suit, Episode 13, which is about the RMS-108 Marisai, and finally, Episode 15, which is a short reimagining of the original series episode New Type Shalia Bull. The show's episode lengths range from 7 minutes to 15 minutes, so not much actually happens. The series has a bit of a mixed reception, because, like I said, not a lot actually happens, and when the show does use CGI animation, it looks pretty iffy at times. The original New Type plans. In the original series, new types as a concept aren't introduced until the very last couple of episodes. However, the original plan was to include them from the get-go, with the word new type being mentioned frequently in early episodes. And the final third of the series would focus on Amuro facing off against multiple Zeon new types. In fact, these new types would end up killing Lala, as once they found out about her friendship with Amuro, they executed her for suspected treason. This, obviously, infuriates Char, and he blames Amuro for her death. One of these Zeon new types would have been named Gola, and he would have just been a kid. However, this wouldn't stop Amuro, and he'd kill him. The second Zeon new type was a man named Darden, who was going to be an older veteran who would be killed very quickly after being introduced. And finally, there was Pachydelia, who would have been the one to kill Lala. She would be killed shortly after killing her. These three new types would have been the underlings of Shalia Bull. Cancelled 1983 film. In 1983, for a period of time, there was work being done on a live-action Gundam film. This film was being made in Hollywood, and it would have been based on the Universal Century, even having characters from the original Gundam series showing up in the film, like Amuro. Being produced by the company Lionsgate, the film was being written by Chip Proser, who was also set to direct the film. Artist Sid Mead was also brought on board to paint concept art for the film, though he only ended up making 2 of them. So what was this film going to look like? Well, it seems that it was going to be a soft adaptation of the original series, with some pretty big changes. For example, the mobile suits would all be roughly 330 feet tall. White Base was going to be a manufacturing ship. The Earth Federation and Zeon weren't even going to be in the film. Instead, Zeon would be replaced with the Zeon Corporate Empire, and their mobile suits would be called Zax. Sayla and Frabo wouldn't be in the film, and would be instead combined into a single character, Sarah. The film's main antagonist would have been a rogue AI named Zeong, who was the one that ran the Zeon Corporate Empire. There was also going to be various alien mercenaries that Amuro would go and recruit in a bar. There would also be a scene featuring space baseball and space hot dogs. And probably the biggest change is that Amuro would have had a younger brother named Shaw, who would have been taken in by the Zeon Corporate Empire and brainwashed by them. He would go on to pilot a red mobile suit and become Amuro's rival. Yeah, basically he was Char, which means that Char was going to be Amuro's little brother. So why didn't this film happen? Well, it's because while a script was completed, Bandai hadn't actually been given the green light by the show's rights holders to make a live-action film. And this caused the project to stall for a while, which eventually killed it. Time travel. So one of the craziest things to ever happen in the Universal Century is when Full Frontal and Banagher Lynx time travel towards the end of Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. We see them go back to the final battle of the One-Year War, the Axis event from Char's counterattack, and the destruction of the La Place space colony from earlier in Gundam Unicorn. However, despite the series very clearly showing the pair time traveling, some have argued that they didn't time travel, and what they were seeing was just hallucinations. However, this just isn't true. They do time travel, as not only do we literally see Full Frontal's mobile suits rust away into dust, it's shown that Lala's ghost brings Lynx back to the present. And seeing how Lala talked about controlling time in the original series, it's not too far-fetched for her spirit to be able to travel through time. So anyways, yeah, time travel actually happened in the Universal Century. It wasn't a hallucination. Chima Garahau is alive. So Chima Garahau from Stardust Memory is killed shortly before Operation Stardust. Everyone who's seen the OVA series knows this. However, what you might not know is that she actually doesn't die. Well, she does die in the show, but she actually survives the events of Stardust Memory in the manga adaptation. Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Rebellion, written by the director of Stardust Memory, has her role increased, and this led her to survive the events of the story. Escaping death, she would go into hiding as a member of the Jupiter Energy Fleet, now going by the name Ephemera Hunt. However, she would be discovered, which results in her completely abandoning the Earth Spear. So while she's dead in the main continuity, she's still alive in this manga adaptation's continuity. It sucks to be a woman pilot in Gundam. So it's a bit of a joke or a meme that in the Universal Century, if you're a female pilot, you're pretty much doomed to die. But is there any truth to this? The biggest examples of women pilots dying pretty often are in Zeta Gundam, Char's Counterattack, Victory Gundam, Gundam Unicorn, and Gundam Narrative. In Zeta Gundam, Emma Sheen, Four, Sarah, Rosamia, and Rekoa are all killed. Hell, Fa is the only female pilot in the entirety of Zeta Gundam to survive the show. In Victory Gundam, the woman-only mobile suit team Shrike Team are all killed off. In Narrative, Rita and Erica are both killed. And in Char's Counterattack, Quess, Chan, Schneider, and Keira Su are all killed. Now, it's not so much that the characters are killed. People have argued that a lot of the deaths that I mentioned didn't really serve much of a narrative purpose, other than shock value, the motivation of male characters, or upping the stakes. These people also argue that while, yes, a ton of male pilots die in the series, there's far more male characters than there are female characters, and the female characters have a higher percentage of dying. So is there any truth to these claims? I don't know. All I know is that a lot of people do be dying in Gundam. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Or don't, I don't know. Bell Torchica's Children. Released in 1988, Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack, Bell Torchica's Children, is a novel that was later adapted into a 7-volume-long manga. The novel is pretty interesting, because it's actually the original version of Char's Counterattack. Although not really, because both Char's Counterattack and Bell Torchica's Children were both adapting the novel Mobile Suit Gundam High Streamer. Basically, High Streamer came out first, then they decided to make a movie out of it, but the original plot for said movie was rejected and turned into this novel, while the movie got turned into Char's Counterattack. Anyways, this is our best look at what could have been Char's Counterattack. Some differences between this and the film we got include Bell Torchica showing up while also being pregnant with Armuro's kid, Char is now piloting a Nightingale, and Armuro is now piloting the RX-93V2 High Nu Gundam. Hathaway accidentally kills Quess. It's officially stated that both Armuro and Char are killed at the end of the story, and Chan Aggie doesn't exist. While this version of Char's Counterattack was never animated, thankfully it can be read via novel format or manga format. Mamoru Nagano's Zeta Gundam. So Mamoru Nagano is credited with the creation of a few mobile suit designs featured in Zeta Gundam. And so, a lot of people think that he was just brought onto the show to design a handful of suits. However, that's not the case. In fact, he was originally supposed to have a much bigger creative role, creating various different character designs and mobile suit designs that ended up not being used in the show. For example, there's the Nahatgal, which would have served as an Axis Zeon mobile fortress. His version of the Zeta Gundam looked fairly similar to the Junshun, a mech he created for the series The 5-Star Stories. He also gave Haman a completely different design, her having white hair and wearing a red and white costume. So why were so many of his designs thrown away? Well, it's because during the production on Zeta Gundam, Nagano had a falling out with Tomino, so only a handful of his designs were used. The build series is Gundam Valhalla. So here's a fun theory. The build series is usually pretty lighthearted and fun, and it serves as a tribute to the entire Gundam franchise, as various mobile suits from every era show up in the series. It's also just a huge model kit promotion, but whatever. However, it's not just mobile suits that show up. Various characters from various Gundam continuities show up in the series as background cameos. Some Universal Century cameos include Char, Quess, Hathaway, Haman, Bernie Wiseman, Uso, Lala, Meniva, the 3 brats from the original series, Odelio Henrik, Warren Trace, Four, Henkin Beckener, and Kai Sheeden. This has led some fans to theorize that the Build series isn't just a tribute to the Gundam franchise. Instead, it's Gundam Valhalla, basically a heaven of sorts where Gundam characters go to after they die. And the weird thing is, there is some truth to this theory, at least according to one of the show's voice actresses. According to Minami Fuji, who voices the character Mao Yasuka, the show's director, Kenji Nagasaki, has said that he believes that all the cameos in the series aren't just lookalikes, but instead the actual characters. So, is this canon? Well, no, probably not, but I like to think it is. Mobile Fighter G Gundam cameos. During the final battle of Mobile Fighter G Gundam, various mobile suits from the Universal Century can be seen taking part. For example, you can see the RX-78 Gundam at least 2 times. Other mobile suit cameos include the F-91 Gundam, Zeta Gundam, and the GP-01FB Zephyrants. You can even see Zambot from the Zambot franchise, and the Wing Gundam from Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. In fact, this Wing cameo predates that show by a few months, making it its first appearance in animation. G-Savior game. So if I were to tell you that there was a sequel to G-Savior, you'd probably call me a liar. But I'm not. Released in September of 2000 for the PlayStation 2, G-Savior the video game is not an adaptation of the film. It's instead a sequel set 1 year after the events of the film, although not a single character from the film actually appears in the game. The game is about the Illuminati mobile suit team, Lightning Squad, battling the forces of the Consent government. You play as Reed Fox, a mobile suit pilot who faces off against various Consent forces in order to stop Project Raven, a mobile suit piloted by an AI. The game also features various references to other Universal Century projects. For example, one level has you traveling through the wreckage of Operation British. As for the gameplay, it's a very standard third-person shooter. You can pick and choose between various G-Savior forms to use in levels, and unlock various items. You can even watch clips from the G-Savior movie, which I guess technically means that characters from the film do appear in the game, just not in the game, you know what I mean. And speaking of the film, unlike the film where it was released in Canada, this game was exclusively released in Japan, though it does have English voice acting. Overall, G-Savior the game is an often forgotten about game that some have argued is better than the movie it's a sequel to. Christina was going to die. Originally, the ending to Warn the Pockets was going to be even more depressing. Not only would Bernie sacrifice his life in order to prevent something he didn't know was already prevented, but he also would have killed Christina as he died, leaving Al to be the sole survivor of the final confrontation. It's unknown why it was decided to spare Christina, but luckily they did. Not much else to say, other than Warn the Pockets was originally going to be even sadder. Gundam Reconquista in G. Airing from October of 2014 to March of 2015, G-Reco, as I'm going to call it from now on, is a very strange series. Most people don't even consider this show to take place in the Universal Century, as it takes place in the Reguild Century. However, the Reguild Century in the show is directly said to take place 1,014 years after the end of the Universal Century. meaning that yes, it is canon. Now, yes, technically Turn A kind of makes everything canon, but it's weird. It's been said that Turn A is more of like a what if, like everything was canon to each other, but it's also been said that Turn A takes place at the end of every Gundam show's timeline. But even then, it's been said that G Reco takes place 500 years after Turn A, but also like the continuities just don't really work. Like how would like G Fighter turn into Universal Century, and how would that turn into like the future century? It just, anyways, I don't feel like getting into that, so we're gonna move on. It's best just to consider Turn A its own continuity. Anyways, G Reco does take place in the Universal Century, just very long after. Being directed by Tomino, the show ran for 26 episodes, and later had its story retold in 5 different compilation films released from November 2019 to August of 2022. The series follows Bellry Zenom and various other Mobile Suit pilots protecting a space elevator from the likes of pirates and the Amerian Army. Not the American Army, the Amerians. Anyways, the show was not received all that well, with people saying that it was really confusing and boring. Although, people did like the show's designs and settings. Tomino would even come out and say, quote, "If people tell me I couldn't understand it because you aren't good at what you do, then there's nothing for me to say but, I'm sorry." Also saying, quote, "Frankly, I didn't think it would be this horrible. Fundamentally, people don't respond to stories made with cold logic. If the logic is overpowering, it won't be a story you can be emotionally attached to. That's all." After episode 19, we improved it so it became a little easier to watch, but gosh, it was too late. While G Reco isn't the most popular series in the Universal Century, it is the most popular series in the Reguild Century. Camille Avengers Endgames himself. Much like how Amaru dies in the original series novelization, Camille also perishes in the Zeta Gundam novelization. However, his death is a lot more tragic. You see, in the novel, Rosa Mia survives later into the story, where she attempts to convince Gates Kappa to let Camille go once he discovers Camille unconscious in the Zeta Gundam. Gates isn't exactly interested in letting Camille go, since he killed so many of his friends. So Gates attempts to kill Camille, only for Rosa Mia to step in, which results in the death of both her and Gates. And when Camille wakes up, he has a mental breakdown. He thought of Rosa Mia as a mother figure. So seeing his actual mom and his mother figure both get killed in front of him, he snaps and removes his helmet in space. And so, when Fa shows up later, she discovers that Camille had Avengers Endgamed himself. And that's how the story ends. Yeah, if you think Zeta Gundam was depressing, it could have been a lot worse. Amuro's Brain Clone Gundam. First appearing in the manga Mobile Suit Crossbone Gundam Skullheart, the Amakusa, also known as Jupiter Gundam, is a bizarre stag beetle-inspired AI-run mobile suit. Created by the remnants of the Jupiter Empire, this mobile suit is notable because of its AI's base. You see, the Jupiter Empire was able to get data from the RX-78 Gundam's core fighter, and using that data, they created a clone brain of Amuro. And this brain was the basis for the AI. Not only did this brain contain all of Amuro's experiences and memories from the 1-year war, but it also had all of his new type abilities. And so, it was a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, until it was eventually destroyed, killing the weird cloned brain. Future versions of this mobile suit would be created en masse, however, they thankfully didn't have any more cloned brains. What happened to the original Haro? Ever since the original series, Haro has been sort of a mascot for the Gundam franchise, even popping up in continuities that aren't the Universal Century. However, despite his place as the franchise's mascot, to this day, nobody knows what happened to the original Haro featured in the original series. Originally, it was implied that the Haro featured in Zeta Gundam was the original, as this Haro keeps referring to Camille as Amuro. However, this was a Mark II version of Haro, so it couldn't be the original. So what happened to him? Well, there's two options. One of them is a lot nicer than the other. The first is that Amuro simply kept this Haro unit after the 1-year war, and it continued to live with him until his death in Char's counterattack. And the second is that this Haro was destroyed, and his spare parts were used to create a robotic parrot. You see, in the manga Crossbone Gundam, there's a robotic parrot named Haro, and it's implied that this parrot was built from the remains of the original Haro. So Haro either chilled out for a while, or was destroyed and rebuilt into a parrot. Tomino thinks about his characters' sex lives. So Tomino is a very interesting person who said some pretty wacky things. Probably one of the most wacky things he ever said was when he was talking to Anno, who would later go on to create Evangelion, and he said, quote, actually I'm not going to read that out loud. You can pause the video. This quote comes from an interview that was archived in the Char's Counterattack fan club book released in 1993. And if you're wondering if he talked more about Char and Nanai, yes he did. Yes he did. Now before someone comments going, "What are you trying to cancel him?" No, I'm not trying to cancel an 82-year-old man for something he said in 1993. I just think it's a funny quote. And honestly, a pretty weird quote. Now, if you're wondering why he said stuff like this, well, it's because he thinks that sex is pretty important in both media and writing characters. By the way, he also said this in the interview. Do whatever you want with that information. The Kuntala were cannibalized. In G-Reco, there's a group of people referred to as the Kuntala. This is an in-universe insult at lower-class people, and there's a big misconception about them. In March of 2021, Tomino would release a book titled... I'm not going to try to pronounce that. It serves as a lore guide of sorts for the Reguild Century. And upon the book's release, English-speaking fans were quick to fan-translate aspects of the book. And in the book, it was discovered that in the Reguild Century, the Kuntala people were bred and raised as livestock to be cannibalized by the upper class. This was a pretty shocking revelation, and a crazy lore drop. However, it was later revealed that this wasn't actually true. It turns out that this was simply a mistranslation. Or I guess a more direct translation. In reality, the book simply uses the term cannibalize as a metaphor for how the lower class are abused. So, there's no cannibalism in Gundam. Yet. For people like Katajina, death is the easy way out. So during the production of Victory Gundam, it was decided to have Katajina survive the events of the show. This was explained by Tomino, as he said, quote, "For people like Katajina, death is the easy way out." At least, that's what fans say happened. But in actuality, Tomino never said this. In fact, the 1994 interview where this quote was supposedly from, Tomino explains that he actually pitied Katajina and felt that he was obligated to punish her at the end of the story. But instead of killing her, he kept her alive so that she could eventually atone for her horrible actions and eventually redeem herself. He says, quote, "I think it's because I couldn't represent the relationship between her and Chronicle correctly. If I were able to depict it, I think the reason why that was possible would have been more clear. But in the end, since I couldn't do it, it's not relevant to talk about it. The only thing I can say is that Katajina didn't want to kill, no matter what it took." Basically, he wishes he wrote Chronicle's corruption of Katajina better to show that she wasn't pure evil. The Legend of Heroes. Mobile Suit Gundam The Legend of Heroes is a rather obscure 5-chapter-long manga written by Kenta Aoki and Kenichi Matsukawa that was released in the SD Club magazine in 1990. The story centers around Kai Shadeen traveling to the Shangri-La space colony in order to find Amuro, as he believes that he's still alive, since Gundam wreckage was discovered there. And when he arrives, he discovers some Zeon remnant forces working there. He also interacts with various characters from Double Zeta, and pilots a replica of the gun cannon. And that's pretty much all we know about it. The Legend of Heroes is extremely rare. The story has never been released in a collected form or republished in anything. The only way to actually read the story is to get access to the 5 issues of SD Gundam the story was published in. The issues from January to May of 1990. And even then, it's written in Japanese, so unless you know how to read Japanese, you're out of luck. Hopefully one day the story gets translated, or at the very least, released in a way that more people can actually read it. Gundam Crisis. Opening in July 2007, Gundam Crisis was a theme park attraction at Fuji-Q Highland in Fuji Yoshida, Japan. The attraction had guests collecting VQ manuals with a handheld VQ device. They need to find these VQ manuals in under 8 minutes in order to complete the magnet coding process on the RX-78-2 Gundam, all while being attacked by Zeon forces. The attraction is notable for 2 things. The first is that the guest who finds the most VQ manuals will get to sit in the 1:1 scale RX-78 Gundam cockpit. And the second is that this ride features a short film directed by Kenichi Suzuki. Unfortunately, it seems that this short film is lost media, as it was never released online, and the attraction is no longer in operation. The only footage of the attraction I was able to find is footage of the attraction's gift shop and a promotional video created by Dokoga TV. Hidden Shadow G. Releasing in 1989, Mobile Suit Gundam's side story, Hidden Shadow G, is a manga written by Moto Koyama. The manga is a gag comedy centered around ninjas who take part in various wars in the Universal Century, with the story mainly following Ryoga, a ninja mercenary working for various different factions who operates the Hidden Shadow of G mobile suit. Although I guess it's wrong to say mobile suit, as in this story, all mobile suits are known as mobile ninjas. Obviously, since this is a comedy series about ninja mobile suits, it was never intended to be canon, though that hasn't stopped it from being republished 3 different times, in 1995, 2005, and 2017. One of the strangest aspects of Hidden Shadow G is the Bio Gundam. This is an organic alien Gundam created by aliens who live on the planet Jupiter. There's also various unique-looking mobile suits, like the Drago, the Gaza H, and the Hambrabi. While the story has been republished various times, no official sequel has ever been made, though there are unofficial sequels in the form of doujins created by the original author. The original Miharu. So Miharu is a minor character featured in the original Gundam series, being a spy for Zeon who briefly joined the Earth Federation, only to die almost instantly. Anyways, she was supposed to be an extremely different character. In the original plans for the series, Miharu was going to be the youngest daughter of Degwin Zabi. She would be an extremely kind and caring person, unlike the rest of her family. This obviously would have given her a lot more importance in the series. This idea would later be reused for Minerva in Zeta Gundam. Gundam 0079: The War for Earth. Released in May of 1997 for the PC, PS1, Mac, and Apple Pigpen, Gundam 0079: The War for Earth is an extremely unique game, in that not only is it the only Gundam game officially developed by a developer in the United States, Presto Studios, but it's also the first time Gundam has tried its hand at live action. The game is more like an interactive movie, with players having to press commands in order to avoid being killed. The game requires the player to make quick decisions, ranging from attacking, moving, to defending. The game is also extremely infamous for its live-action cutscenes, which feature American actors portraying various characters from the Gundam franchise, ranging from Char, Garma, Bright Noah, and Kai Shiden. And the acting is exactly what you would expect from a 1997 video game.
If I am to die, it will be a death that honors my father and the Duchy of Zeon. May you burn in hell, Char, for the freedom of Zeon!
The game's plot takes place during the One-Year War, and has you battling Zeon forces as an unnamed new type pilot working for the Earth Federation. The main threat of the game is the Thor cannon, which is an extremely powerful cannon built by Zeon to take out White Base. The game is also extremely infamous for its insane difficulty, as if you're only a half second off on your decisions, you die. The game is often regarded as one of, if not the worst, Gundam game ever created. Side note, look at this awful gun tank. Poca Gundam. Poca Gundam is a scrapped Universal Century Gundam series that was being planned to release after Victory. It would have been about a war between the people of Earth and the people of Mars, as the people of Mars attempt to return to Earth, and this somehow creates a conflict. However, because Victory Gundam underperformed, and because of the success of Dragon Ball, it was decided to scrap the show and instead work on Mobile Fighter G Gundam. However, aspects of Poca Gundam would be used in future Gundam projects. For example, Turn A and Age. Some people have also claimed that designs created for Poca Gundam were used in Cowboy Bebop, with the Mars colony being an example. However, I can't find any sources for that claim, so take it with a grain of salt. SD Gundam SD Wacky Races. In 1990, a Mobile Suit SD Gundam OVA was released that contained various SD short films. One of these short films was titled SD Gundam SD Wacky Races. This short is about various Universal Century characters competing in a race using mobile suits. Well, some of them are using mobile suits. Some of the racers do use cars, and other racers are quite literally just mobile suits driving big cars. And one of these racers is Yazin Gabel from Double Zeta, who rides with his pet dog based on Jemin Bajek. And they're both an extremely obvious parody of Dick Dastardly and Muttley from the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Wacky Races. In fact, this entire short is just a parody of Wacky Races. However, according to Hanna-Barbera, it was less of a parody and more of a direct ripoff. And because of this, SD Gundam SD Wacky Races is the only SD Gundam OVA to never be re-released in any way, though you can still find it online. Gundam Neo Experience 0087 Green Divers. Released in August of 2001, Gundam Neo Experience 0087 Green Divers is a 22-minute-long short film. The film takes place in UC 0087, at the very end of the Grips War, and follows two siblings guiding their evacuation ship through atmospheric re-entry with the help of Amuro. This film uses a combination between CGI animation and traditional 2D animation, and is notable for being one of the rarest pieces of Gundam media. Or at least, it was. You see, this film was originally only available to watch Shibuya Tokyo Bunkakaiken's Astronomical Museum and Goto Planetarium, as this film is actually a semi-educational film about the science of atmospheric re-entry. While there, It would only be shown for about 4 months, before being removed from the museum and being circulated between various planetariums around Japan. And for over 20 years, this was the only way you could actually see this piece of Gundam media. So if you didn't live in Japan, good luck seeing it. And even then, if you lived in Japan, you'd have to track down a planetarium that was showing it. This all changed, however, in April of 2023, when the mobile game Mobile Suit Gundam UC Engage actually made the entire film viewable. And so now, Green Divers is available to watch worldwide. And after watching it, I think it's pretty mid. It's kind of whatever. Outer Gundam, Moon Crisis, and Rion. When it comes to Gundam manga, usually they're set in their own little micro-continuities, or are very loosely canon to the overall UC timeline. However, Mobile Suit Gundam Outer Gundam is an exception. Released in January of 1988, Outer Gundam was written by Masahumi Matsuura, and tells the story of the Zephyr Gundam, which is an Earth Federation mobile suit piloted by an AI. Now, this story features various different continuity errors, so it takes place in its own little continuity. However, unlike other manga in the Universal Century, Outer Gundam's microcontinuity is shared with 3 other stories. The second is Mobile Suit Gundam in UC0099 Moon Crisis. This story was also written by Matsuura. Releasing from February of 1993 to August of 1994, it takes place in UC0099, and tells the story of a plane containing the Earth Federation president being attacked by Neo-Zeon forces. This story also features various characters from the original anime, Zeta Gundam, and Double Zeta appearing in the story, including Camille, who is now a doctor. Next, there's Mobile Suit Gundam 0099 Moon Crisis side story, Highlanders. Released in 1996, this one-shot is a direct sequel to Moon Crisis, and was even released in the second volume of Moon Crisis. It tells the story of some mobile suit pilots defending a civilian space station. And finally, there's Mobile Suit Gundam Rion, which was once again written by Matsuura, and released in 1996. This story takes place in UC0107, and is about a gold rush of sorts occurring on Mars, when it's discovered that the Red Planet has a bunch of rare metals on it. This gives rise to the organization FAMAS, who do battle with Ruby Huguet, who uses the Zephyr Phantom Mark II Rion Gundam to battle them. Tomino tried to kill Gundam. So Mobile Suit Victory Gundam is a very controversial series because of how dark and depressing the show got. Also because it was sometimes really weird. The reason for the show being so dark was that Tomino wasn't in the best headspace while working on the show. In fact, he said before that his depression was at its worst while he was working on Victory. And because of this, he made the series extremely dark and depressing, with him even claiming that he did this in order to destroy the Gundam franchise by making a series so unpleasant that nobody would want to watch it. That being said, however, he's also said that he actually regrets doing this. At least, that's what I've seen people say. I can't find any direct quote from him saying any of these things. No interviews or anything like that. So if anyone has a source to these claims, please tell me in the comments below. Gaia Gear. Releasing from April of 1987 to December of 1991 in New Type magazine, and written by Tomino. Gaia Gear is a novel that takes place 110 years after the events of Char's counterattack, and follows a French Char, who, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is a clone of Char. The year is UC0203, and Char fights for the resistance group, Metatron, against the Earth Federation, and their police force known as the Manhunter Agency. Only they don't use mobile suits to fight the Earth Federation. Instead, they fight with man-machines, which are the successor to mobile suits, with Char's man-machine being the Gaia Gear Alpha, one of the most powerful man-machines ever built. Gaia Gear itself is actually pretty controversial. Not because fans don't like it or anything, instead it's controversial because Studio Sunrise doesn't like the fact that it exists. You see, early into Gundam's creation, Tomino had sold the rights to Gundam to Sunrise, meaning that he couldn't just create a new Gundam story without the permission of Sunrise. But he didn't really care, and released the novel anyways. And this obviously annoyed the studio. In fact, when the novel was released outside of New Type magazine, it was required to be titled Gaia Gear, instead of the original title, Mobile Suit Gaia Gear. That's also why the mobile suits in the story are referred to as man-machines. Though this controversy wouldn't stop the novel from getting a radio drama adaptation, releasing from April to October of 1992. Despite its obscurity, there are fans who are hopeful that it will one day receive an anime adaptation. However, this is more than likely never going to happen, due to various legal reasons. And not only that, but it seems that Tomino isn't a big fan of the story anymore, as in 2005, he refused to give permission for the book to be reissued because of the quality of the book. G-Savior in Build-Fighters. Shocking pretty much everyone, in Gundam Build-Fighters' 8th episode, which aired on November 25th, 2013, Sunrise did the impossible. They acknowledged G-Savior's existence. But not via an Easter egg or a minor reference. No, the actual G-Savior Gundam appears in the show and is fully animated. Granted, it doesn't really do much and gets destroyed pretty easily, but it's insane that G-Savior got any kind of acknowledgement after the film. Sayla Mass in Unicorn. This is a real quick one. Despite not appearing too often after the original series, Sayla Mass actually makes a silent cameo in the 7th Unicorn OVA. She can be seen participating in the final battle, piloting a core booster. Angelo Sopper is Iron Mask. So there's a theory that Angelo Sopper from Gundam Unicorn eventually becomes Iron Mask, the main antagonist of F91. Now this theory at first sounds pretty random, but it stems from the fact that F91 takes place 27 years after Unicorn. And since Angelo is 19 in Unicorn, he would be in his mid-40s by the time of F91, which is around the same age Iron Mask is. Then there's the fact that after Unicorn, Angelo just kind of vanishes from the Universal Century, not really appearing in any story. And the final bit of evidence is that Iron Mask's son, Dorel Rona, looks very similar to Angelo. And that's where pretty much most of the evidence ends. In reality, Iron Mask's real name is Corazzo Rona, and he used to be a biocomputer researcher. Now yes, Angelo could have just done a Char and changed his name, but I don't know. There's not a ton of evidence supporting this theory. Although it is a pretty neat theory, so I wouldn't really mind if it was canonized. You can buy Amuro's underwear. So if you ever watched the original Gundam series and thought to yourself, man, I wish I could wear Amuro's underwear, I want you to rethink your life. Everything you've ever done to this point, everyone you've ever been nice to, everyone you've ever hurt, every choice you've made, I want you to think about why you did all those things. Anyways, in September of 2023, Bandai began selling underwear designed after Amuro's underwear for $25. Not only is there the underwear he wore in the original series, but also the trunks he wore in Char's counterattack. So yeah, you can buy his underwear. I guess this is now a requirement if you're going to cosplay him. Wake me when they start selling Harry Ord's pajamas. Cyborg Jared. During Zeta Gundam's production, there were discussions about Jared Mesa becoming fatally injured during a battle and having to be turned into a cyborg by Hammond. And when piloting a mobile suit, he would have to have his upper body removed and plugged into the mech. Not much else to say here, as this was thrown out pretty early in development. Dreamcast RX-78 console. The Sega Dreamcast is not only one of the coolest consoles ever made, but it's also got a ton of unique and rare variations. And one of the rarest is the RX-78 Gundam Dreamcast. Sold exclusively through Dreamcast Direct, it was created to pay both tribute to the Dreamcast's 3rd anniversary and to tie in with the Dreamcast release of Mobile Suit Gundam Federation vs. Zeon. This blue variant of the Dreamcast was released in April of 2002, and only 78 of them were ever created. While named after the RX-78-2 Gundam from the original series, honestly its color scheme is more like the Zeta Gundam. Monkey New Types. The MS-06MS Barbus is a rather strange mobile suit from the manga Mobile Suit Crossbone Gundam Skullheart, and you're probably wondering why I didn't talk about it in the weird mobile suit entry. Well, it's because this suit is a little bit more special than those other suits, because it's piloted by new type monkeys. No, really. During the 1-year war, a Zeon commander saw a monkey playing a video game, no really, and this made him create Project E, a top-secret Zeon experiment that aimed at creating new type monkeys that would eventually go on to pilot the Barbos mobile suit. And it was extremely effective on the battlefield, until a fatal flaw was discovered by enemy soldiers. You see, if the monkey inside the suit were to see a giant banana-shaped balloon, they would get distracted, allowing the enemy to take them out. I really hope someday this mobile suit gets animated. Space Runaway Idion is canon. So if I were to tell you that the anime Space Runaway Idion is canon to the Universal Century, I'd be lying. Well, half lying. Released in 1992, Mobile Suit vs. Giant God of Legends, Gigantus' Counterattack, is a one-shot manga that tells the story of Amuro, Char, and Judo from Double Zeta teaming up to battle Hammond's Neo-Zeon forces and stop them from using the giant mech Gigantus to destroy the Earth Federation. Interestingly though, Gigantus isn't a mobile suit, and it's not even from their universe. It turns out that Gigantus is actually Idion, the titular mech from Space Runaway Idion, and it turns out that it's in the Gundam universe after destroying its previous universe. Also, it turns out that Judo is actually the reincarnation of that show's protagonist. Anyways, now that he's in the Gundam universe, Idion wants to destroy some more. So it has to be destroyed. Luckily, the heroes are able to destroy it, and the day is saved. Obviously, this isn't canon to the main UC timeline, but it is interesting that this crossover manga introduces the idea of Gundam being a rebirth of sorts for the Idion universe. Man-08 Elmeth Brain. At first glance, the Man-08 Elmeth is nothing more than a cool-looking new type mobile armor used by Zeon during the 1-year war. It's nothing too special. However, underneath that armor lies a giant organic brain. Well, at least in one drawing. For some reason, when Makoto Kobayashi was asked to draw the Elmeth for a hobby magazine, he gave the mobile armor a brain. What's even stranger is that this is the only time the Elmeth has been shown to have a brain. No other official drawing of the mobile armor has this brain. So why did he give it a brain? Well, nobody knows. Victory was going to be about Char's descendant. Originally, Victory Gundam was going to be about a descendant of Char. Basically, Uso is going to be the great-grandson of Char. and his relationship with the Red Comet seemed to have been removed pretty late into production, as Uso's mom, Myra Miguel, has an extremely similar last name to Nanai Miguel, Char's final love interest before his death. In fact, in Japanese, their last names are spelled the exact same way. So, is Uso actually related to Char in the final show? Nope. Tomino has confirmed that they are not related in the final product. But if you want to headcanon it, nobody can stop you. Ring of Gundam. Released in August of 2009, Ring of Gundam is a strange 5-minute long short film written and directed. It was created to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Gundam franchise, and it takes place thousands upon thousands of years into the Universal Century. The short focuses on an Earth Federation Gundam pilot who discovers a strange object in space called Beauty Memory, which apparently contains all of humanity's memories. It also contains a new type girl named Beauty. There's also a massive space colony shaped like a ring floating in space, which obviously gave the short film its name. There's also strange skeleton-like mobile suits that appear in the short, and they're clearly inspired by designs from Turn A Gundam. It's a very weird short film with a plot that doesn't really make any sense. Honestly, this seems like more of a proof of concept than an actual short film. Pile of Hamburger. At the very end of War in the Pocket, Birdie's corpse is described by a Federation soldier as looking like a pile of hamburger, which is honestly one of the grossest descriptions of a corpse. Like, the fact that his body was so messed up, he just looked like a pile of meat is just horrible. Because of how gross it is, it's become a pretty iconic line. That's also become a meme in the Gundam fanbase, and has even been referenced in official Gundam media. For example, in the Igloo episode, Take Out That Angel of Death, Barberry is told to get out of the way of a tank, or he'll end up looking like a hamburger. 2019 baseball game. In May of 2019, at the Lions vs. Eagles Pacific League baseball game, in order to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Gundam franchise, Japanese comedians Numachi and Osamu Wakai were hired to cosplay as Char and Amuro and throw the first pitch at the game. They were chosen because they're actually well known for their impressions of the characters. There was also at least one woman dressed up in an Earth Federation uniform as well, although I have no idea who played her. This wasn't the only way they celebrated Gundam's 40th anniversary at the game. 3,000 Lions Zaku 2 gunplay kits were created and handed out with tickets to the game. I actually have a recording of the entire promotional event, because back in 2022, when I was researching for this video, I stumbled upon a Facebook upload of it, and had the forethought to actually download it. Which, luckily I did, because now the video is gone. I would play a clip of it, but Japanese copyright laws are extremely strict, so I don't really know what to do with it. I guess I just kind of have it now. Maybe it's not even that rare, I don't know. Principality of Zeon Military Preparatory School. Written by Mayu Shinjo, Mobile Suit Gundam Principality of Zeon Military Preparatory School is a manga series that ran from January of 2010 to May of 2014 in the magazine Gundam Ace. The story centers on 5 students: Cross, Leonid, Kirill, Rabbi, and Arzert living in a Zeon military academy during the One-Year War. The series lasted 2 volumes and was a shoujo manga, meaning that the series was aimed primarily at teenage girls. Obviously, dudes could read it too, but that was like the primary demo. The story has been described as the 5 boys encountering friendship, jealousy, and war throughout their time at the academy, with Rabbi and Kirill being the main characters, and apparently being raised very differently from each other. There's not really much else for me to say about this manga, as it doesn't seem it's ever been translated to English. Char's Daily Life. Written by Masaya Honda, Char's Daily Life is a gag comedy manga released from July of 2012 to December of 2020. The story follows a man named Nishi who has amnesia and believes that he's Char from Gundam. So basically, it's a gag comedy about a dude who thinks he's Char trying to live his life in modern Japan with a variety of characters who just so happen to look and act like Gundam characters from the Universal Century. The manga also received a live-action commercial promoting it, featuring the comedian Numachi playing Char. There was even a handshake event with the quote-unquote real Char in Akihabara. The series was fairly popular and lasted for 8 volumes, with some chapters even being officially translated into English. From the Past to the Future. Gundam Rekko G From the Past to the Future is a 9-minute-long short film directed by Shigeru Kawada. Released shortly after the final episode of Rekko G, this short features the show's 2 main characters facing off against a new mobile suit not seen in the show. The most notable things about this short is that the short features various scenes created with CGI instead of 2D animation, and the new mobile suit, the CAMS RX-0G Phoenix, is a replica of the RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 03 Phoenix featured in the Unicorn novel and the film Gundam Narrative. Arguably, the most mid piece of Gundam media ever made. This further connects our Rekka with the Universal Century. Also, because this film was originally shown off at the Wall G Theater at Diver City, Tokyo, the life-size RX-78 Gundam statue, which I talked about way earlier in the video, will light up with different colors depending on the scene being shown in the film. Last thing I'll mention is that my anime list says the film consists of unaired footage of G-Rekko, implying that this is a deleted sequence from the show, but that's just not true. I mean, the show is animated in 2D. I don't think they were going to randomly have a 3D action sequence in the middle of it. Looking for Avenir. Releasing from May of 1995 to February of 1996, and written by Tomino, Looking for Avenir, also known as Look for Avenir, is a trilogy of novels set in the early Universal Century. In fact, it's so early in the Universal Century timeline that it's actually set before the galaxy decided to adopt the Universal Century calendar. Set in the year AD 20XX, the story is about the world reacting to a mysterious machine arriving in Japan, declaring that it has a message from Avenir. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of information out there about this trilogy of novels, because they've never been translated, at least completely. The first 5 chapters of the first novel were fan-translated, but that's about it from what I've been able to find. There's so little known about these novels that there are rumors that this trilogy of novels may not have originally been Gundam novels, and were only retroactively made Gundam novels because they use a few terms from the Universal Century. If anyone has any more information about these novels, please let me know in the comments below. Around 30 Office Worker Hamen-sama. Written by Masukazu Iwasaki, Around 30 Office Worker Hamen-sama is a gag comedy manga about an alternate universe where Gundam characters from the Universal Century live in modern-day Japan. The series follows Hamen, who is a corporate section chief at the company Neo Zeon, and basically it's all about the wacky situations she gets into. She's far from the only Gundam character to appear in the story, though, as Char, Camille, Bright Noah, Emma Sheen, Amuro, Bernie Wiseman, Hathaway, Garma, Judo, Charasun, and various others appear in the series. Some appear as main or supporting characters, while others are just cameos. It began being released in November of 2020, and is still being released as of this video's release. This manga is also extremely horny on main. Not saying that's a bad thing, it's pretty blatantly horny on main. Shuichi Ikeda got mad at Koichi Yamadera. So here's a fun little behind-the-scenes fact. When recording lines for Char's counterattack, voice actor Koichi Yamadera, who voiced Gus in the film, accidentally ticked off Char's voice actor, Shuichi Ikeda. How did he do that? Well, between recording sessions, Yamadera asked him if Char was the bad guy and Amuro was the good guy. This caused Ikeda to snap at him, yelling, quote, "You idiot. Gundam isn't like that. You came here not understanding anything. Idiot." Don't worry though, because right after this incident, the two went out for a drink and talked it out. While this is definitely an overreaction in my opinion, it is pretty cool to see how much Ikeda loves the Gundam franchise and playing Char. McDonald's. In June of 2022, McDonald's partnered with Bandai and Sunrise to create 6 limited-time menu items inspired by the Gundam franchise. And to promote this collaboration, a commercial was created where Char, voiced by Ikeda, promotes various burgers, including the new type white triple cheeseburger, which he compares to Amuro. The other items include the red garlic teriyaki, double chicken sausage muffin, spicy double cheeseburger, and a McFizz drink and McFloat, both called Red Energy. Purchasing one of these items, you'd be given packaging with a QR code that allows you to take an AR quiz telling you which Gundam character you're most like. This, of course, was only in Japan. However, Japan isn't the only country that gets Gundam McDonald's collabs. In April of 2023, McDonald's in China partnered with Bandai and created an RX-78-2 Gundam Big Mac Gunpla kit. This kit was sold for a limited time in China. Then, in October of 2023, a second Chinese McDonald's Gundam collab occurred. This time, an SD version of the RX-78 Gundam with Angus beef burger colors was given out to people who purchased the Cheese Angus Thick Beef Burger set on the McDonald's app.
Burger.
Gundam Mission to the Rise. Released in August of 1998 during the Gundam Big Bang project, Gundam Mission to the Rise is a short film set in the Universal Century. The plot is about the Earth Federation attempting to send a spacecraft through a warp hole when suddenly some Zeon forces attack them. A battle ensues, and the Earth Federation's ship launches into the warp hole, followed closely behind by a Zeon spaceship. And that's where it ends. Yeah, when I said it was a short film, I really meant short, as this film isn't even 3 minutes long. Directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, this film doesn't really have much of a story. In fact, nobody knows when this film takes place in the Universal Century. Nobody even knows if it takes place in the main UC timeline. Though Sunrise has said before if it's animated it's canon, so I guess it's in the main universe. Even more so than Ring of Gundam, this short feels more like a proof of concept than an actual short film. For the Barrel. Released from August of 2000 to June of 2002 in New Type magazine, For the Barrel is an adaptation of the Universal Century and was written by Atsuka Gichi. The novel is basically an alternate retelling of the original Gundam series with reworked characters, like Sayla and Char, for example. Yeah, that's Char. The story also features some very strange mobile suit designs, and some very unique character designs. The story also has some pretty dark topics. Now, obviously Gundam features dark topics, like the horrors of war, but For the Barrel also includes R-word scenes, and it's confirmed in this universe, Rambo Rawl had a very explicit encounter with a 10-year-old girl. Evil, just evil. Haman also appears in the story, and she becomes the mistress to Zeon Deacon, who's also the father of Lala in this universe. The story is very dark and very mean-spirited. What I mean is pretty much everyone in the series is just extremely unlikable. If you want to read the series, you actually can, as For the Barrel and its short manga spin-off, For the Barrel 1984, have been fan-translated. which is pretty cool, because For the Barrel has never been republished, so if nobody posted fan translations of it, if you wanted to read this story, you would have to track down every single issue of the new type of magazine that featured the story, and translate each chapter by yourself. But yeah, For the Barrel is very weird. The 8th Mobile Suit Team's R-word scene. In 1999, the 8th Mobile Suit Team received a novel adaptation that expanded upon the OVA's story. And one of the ways the novel expanded the story was very controversial. As in the novel, Kiki has a very different fate, whereas in the OVA, she lives. And in the novel, she's R-worded by several Federation soldiers, and during this incident, she takes her own life by biting her own tongue off. Yeah, this was very clearly done for shock value. Angelo Sopper was R-worded. Yeah, and to finish off the iceberg, we got yet another pretty messed up entry. But it's true. Well, at least in one continuity. You see, Unicorn was based on a series of light novels, and these light novels were far darker than the OVA series. As revealed in the 9th Unicorn light novel, during Angelo's childhood, his mother remarried after his father was killed by Federation soldiers, and his mom's new husband would R-word Angelo on a near nightly basis. He also abused Angelo's mom, which led to her ending her own life. Now, this is never touched upon in the OVAs, so it can be assumed that this isn't canon in the main UC timeline, which, honestly, I'm pretty cool with this not being canon. And that's it. I have fulfilled my promise from like 2 years ago. That is the Universal Century Gundam Iceberg Explained, and another video that exposes me for not being able to speak at all, and not being able to pronounce anything. I've definitely mispronounced some things. I say Arboro a lot. I don't know why. I know there's no R. I know there's no, it's not A-R-M. It's just A-M. I don't know why. I've always said Arboro. And I do not know why. I do not know where that came from. I don't know. I've tried to say it correctly in this video. I know for a fact I've slipped up and said Armoro in the video. So sorry about that. I've also said Tomino. That's because I saw a video. I was like, okay, how do I pronounce his name? And I looked it up, and I found like one video where it was like, oh, just pronounce it Tomino. That's not how you pronounce it. That's just. So most of this video, I say Tomino. I did go back and fix a few of them where I changed it to the correct, what I believe is the actual correct pronunciation of his name. But I know for a fact there are some instances that I didn't correct. Oh well, you can laugh in the comments below, whatever. This video is going to bomb, obviously. I mentioned it at the beginning of the video. I mentioned it to you on Twitter. But yeah, this video is not going to do well. It's probably going to do a little bit better than the Fate Iceberg, but it's not going to do well. But yeah, it is what it is. I made this for the people who kept asking about it, because I promised it years ago, and I've delayed it and delayed it and delayed it, so here it is. Hope you guys. I hope for the people that were waiting on this, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If not, I'm sorry, but I think I did a pretty solid job on this. If this video does somehow like get successful, it's a successful video. I mean, I said at the beginning of the video that like maybe I'll do another one of these, except it'll be about like the other continuities, like the Cosmic Century, or like the Witch from Mercury, Turn A Gundam, all that kind of stuff, Fighter G. I'll have to watch most of those. The only shows I've watched outside of the Universal Century, as I've mentioned at the beginning, are Fighter G Gundam, Seed Destiny, and technically, I mean, I consider it to be in the Universal Century, but technically it's in the Re-Guild Century. But I have also seen Reco G, or G Reco, sorry, which is also my least favorite Gundam series that I've seen. Not good. I thought it was really boring. kind of rambling at this point, but I hope you guys had a good one. Have a good day. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like and all that kind of stuff. Comment below. If you want to see another one, comment below, because I might do it. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure which Gundam series I'm going to watch next. I'm either going to watch Witch from Mercury, Wing Gundam, or Mobile Gundam Wing, the one from the 90s, or Iron-Blooded Orphans. One of those three I'm going to watch next. Which one do you think I should watch? Leave in the comments below. Maybe I'll listen to you. Maybe I won't. Decent chance I won't, but oh well. I don't. Oh well. But yeah, that's enough rambling from me. Have a good one, guys. Stay safe and all that, and I will see you guys in the next one, which will be a remaster of one of my favorite icebergs that I've done. So I hope you guys are excited for that, and yeah, take care.